Hey, Tux there, Luke here. Now, Apple Carplay and Android Auto, they're all of age at the moment with infotainment units in cars, and they're probably one of the most common retrofits at the moment. And for good reason. The amount of functionality these type of applications offer is phenomenal. They can really bring an old car back up to date with, Spotify, maps, obviously hands-free calling, etc. There's just so much there, and it's optimized for a nice touchscreen interface when you're driving. Trouble is, to try and get into that, you're probably going to start off paying from around £300 to £350 for basic CarPlay Android Auto units, something like the Pioneer SPH DA120, also known as the App Radio 4, which is a unit I had a couple of years ago on one of my A4s, and it was a fantastic unit. I couldn't fault the unit, and I would definitely consider buying one of them again, even at the current price points, because I think they have gone up in price, if I wanted to retrofit in my car. I have got this here. This is an ATOTO Android Auto Apple CarPlay head unit, but instead of costing around £350, this thing here cost around £170, and I'll leave a link to the Amazon marketplace on here, and you can check it out. It's an affiliate link after all, but that never influences my decision. But I want to see, how much do you give up by not going for one of the established brands like Pioneer or JVC and Kenwood, and instead going for brands that probably most of you have never heard of. Anyway, let's go and unbox this. I'm going to be installing this in my mate's early 90s Toyota. It's already got an aftermarket head unit in there. It should be a straight swap. I'm going to see how exactly this performs. And say, comparing it against the more expensive one, double the price, what exactly do you lose? So, ATOTO, let's just have a quick look at the box. It's a very generic box. I've got a feeling the other head units they make probably come in the same box, that's fine. And it's the only CarPlay unit they do. The rest of the units they have, which I believe are more expensive, are actually Android-based ones. Now, I've had Android ones in the past. The good functionality is pretty good on them. A little bit complicated, can be a little bit slow. I don't think they're the best solution after owning one for a car. This, though, CarPlay, I'm hoping it's going to be a bit lighter weight, it's going to be faster because it's running off an iPhone. So let's go and open this up and see what it's like. So packaging's all pretty decent by the look of it. So we've got the microphone cable to mount on an A-pillar. And then we've got some ISO connectors here, different ones. I'll give you that. This looks like, I'm assuming, cable for the cameras, video output cables. USB cable to mount in your glove box or somewhere out of the way. Faceplate, mounting brackets, screen protector, and now onto the head unit itself. I think it's a relatively handsome unit. Probably not as good looking as the Pioneer one, but I do actually like the fact it's got physical buttons instead of touch controls, which are nicer when you want to get off the road. We've got a few connections in the front, so a USB. Pull that down, auxiliary inputs, micro SD slot, built-in microphone if you want to use that instead. The screen is quite reflective. It's, I believe, a 7-inch capacitive touchscreen. It's quite a short unit because it doesn't have a disk drive in it. And then when you go over to the back, one thing it's very welcome to see is the fact it's got 3 different pre-outs. So if you want a front, rear, and a subwoofer amps installed, that can be done. Microphone inputs. I'm assuming IR is probably actually for the steering wheel controls. It does say steering wheel control compatible. Power, fuse, FM antenna here, the USB. The second USB, if you want to hide out the way, goes in the back, and also the video outputs. But I believe this is probably an input as well, because you can actually stick a reversing camera on this and the front-facing camera at the same time, which is really nice to have. So most cars, you just pull head unit straight out of the dash, but Japanese cars from this era tend to want you to take part of the centre console out. I've seen it on other Japanese cars as well. Not the biggest job in the world, but it does make it a little bit more difficult instead of a straight plug-and-play swap. So I'm just being a little bit careful because this is a relatively old car now. I don't want to break any of the plastics. Well, that came off okay. So typically on most cars you would have to use mounted brackets that came with the head unit, but because Toyota have designed this car for standard doubled-in applications anyway, and it doesn't really require any modification. In fact, some of those cars came with doubled-in head units as standard. We should be able to just undo the screws on the side of this one, mount up to that, and then it should install absolutely fine. Now, first thing you want to notice, it's a very, very glossy interface. In fact, the camera struggles to focus. I've got this in manual focus because there's so much reflections. Out of the box, they did give you a screen protector, which will allow it to be a bit more frosted. It might be worth going on this car after this video is done. But I just want to show you with the reflections what it's like with no screen protector on. Anyway, it does look a little bit scratched at the moment. That's just dirt over the front surface of the radio. There's no scratches there. So if I go and boot this up, so immediately going to be presented with the boot logo. It's nice and quick to boot up, and these boot logos are configurable to different manufacturers. They're only about 30 to 40 presets in there, and you can't add them to it yourself. But there is enough there for about 90% of you users to get your manufacturer vehicle on there. Now, this is not the main screen. The main screen is this one, and you can see it's a very neat, it's a simple interface, and it looks very, very similar to Apple CarPlay. It definitely is a clone of Apple CarPlay's interface, and to be honest, that's a nice thing. Apple CarPlay, it's a great interface. It looks very nice and neat and slick, so the fact they've copied that makes it look very professional. Now, before I go into different features on here and show you exactly what I can do, I just want to go through the settings and show you some of the more advanced stuff which may be more relevant to anyone who wants to buy this for the audio quality. There's not much video options, but if you do go to audio, we've got volume setup, audio setup, loudness, beep, and some audio mix and stuff, and mute while reversing. Now, volume setup is very useful to have. So we've got our different inputs here, and we can adjust the volume relative to each other so they have an even impulse going into the car, so you're not having major volume differences, say going from auxiliary to Bluetooth. If you go to audio setup, here's where you can tweak the audio sound a bit more. And firstly, we've got a 10 band graphic equalizer, which is really, really nice. I think it's 10. Looks about 10 band. And we've got some presets along the bottom. So that's a really, really nice thing to see. Going over to the audio tab, we have a fader, which is kind of a visual fader, which is nice, and balance control. And then also a 3-band equalizer on top of that, which is weird. But again, that's not a problem, it's just more control. And then finally going over to subwoofer, we have, I think, a low pass filter here, a volume adjustment, or we can just automatically set it. One thing that is missing off this, which I would have really liked to see, which the Pioneer app radio had, was that I had, there's no time delay function. So if I want to set how far away that speaker is over here to the one over this side, I can't do this on this radio. And that's, for 90% of you out there, not going to be relevant, but for you, few people who want to add amplifiers and subwoofers and different speakers to it, it may be one of those features that's very important to you, which the Pioneer does have. You can buy an external DSP, but that's going to cost you a couple £100, and by the time you buy that, well, you might as well just bought a head unit with a built-in in the first place. So I would not say for that reason this is for serious audio enthusiasts. Display, very simple. We can alter the panel illumination, so the buttons can be illuminated to whatever colour you want them to be to match the dashboard of your car. In fact, it's not just presets along the bottom, we can individually drag the sliders to make it match completely. There's not much more I want to show you on here. I just want to go down to system, one final thing, steering wheel controls and our boot logo. And let's go to the top. These are the boot logos available to you, and you can't add to them, unfortunately. You're going to see, for some reason, in this screen, the interface is very laggy. It doesn't seem to want to always respond to my finger. But they're the manufacturers that are available for with the head unit, and it's going to be enough for about 90% of you users out there. Now, I'm not too sure why the interface is more laggy in there. It always does that for some reason. But the interface alone, it's not actually a quick interface. I'll be honest with that. It does seem to lag a bit behind your finger. The processor, or however this is configured, just seems to be a little bit slower and not quite as nice to use as the Pioneer. But overall, it's still a pretty nice head unit to use. I just go back to the home screen up here. There's 2 home buttons. There's this one, the soft key, and there's also a dedicated hard key down here. Now, I'll show you Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in a second, but let's just go in, stick a memory stick in here. Okay, so you stick it in, storage device inserted, and let's go ahead and just play some music. I'm just going to turn it down so you don't hear it, but yeah, there we go, there's our interface. The layout's nice and slick, and actually seems to move a lot faster when you're looking at songs in the normal menu system, so that's not too bad. On the other side of stuff, there is a gallery view, and I'm only bringing this to your attention because we're not going to really be looking at pictures on this, but you can set a wallpaper. You can't set a boot logo, but you can set a wallpaper. So if I set that, now I've got my wallpaper. This has to be configured to a particular resolution, I think 1280 by 600 for it to work. If I take the memory stick out, this wallpaper will still stain into memory, so that's pretty cool. Quickly going to go ahead and launch Apple CarPlay. Now this is something that's quite interesting about the setup. I'm not quite sure why it does this, but you can see there's a cable down here in the glove box, if the camera focuses. So yeah, in the glove box down there, there's a USB cable for an iPhone. For some reason, Apple CarPlay will only work if you use the USB ports that's on the back of the head unit. For some reason, if you plug it into the front one, Apple CarPlay will not work. Weird, don't know why, but that's just the way it is. Well, I'm not going to delve into too much. Let's see what the Apple CarPlay connection is like. So I've got my phone here. Let's go and connect this into a USB. Okay, it's come up connecting here on the head unit. And CarPlay. Unlock my phone. There we go. And yeah, Apple CarPlay booted in already. Now this is not wireless CarPlay, of course, at this price point. It is a wired connection. But yeah, you know, that came up really nice, really quick. The interface is there. Again, I'm not going to go too much into Apple CarPlay because that's going to be the same on pretty much every car. The only thing I want to try is going into the maps whether we can use pinch to zoom, which some head units will allow and some won't. And no, it's not a pinch to zoom unit, so it doesn't have multi-touch gestures. You do have to use the in and out zoom function. I am noticing that's the problem I'm having actually. The very edges of the screen are not sensitive as the inner part of the screen, and we've seen that exact same problem when we were trying to get the boot logos up on the car before. When we were trying to scroll down, it was very hit and miss whether it worked or not. I'm finding the exact same problem now. It's not working. Good time to test the audio quality. Okay. Oh yeah.
Can't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you can drive up in the Volvo.
Where, to your house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the back of the Volvo.
Okay. When do you want me to come up?
All right, so now.
Give me a quarter of an hour, is that okay?
Okay, bye.
Bye. Well, anyway, that was a good test of the Bluetooth audio quality. Now, talking to my mum then, she said the microphone quality wasn't quite as good from that as it was from my phone, but my phone was here, so that's kind of a given, but that phone call was absolutely fine. So anyway, that is the ATOTO head unit, and I think for £170 it's actually really, really good in terms of its functionality and what it adds to the car. Aesthetic's nice, it's got hard buttons on it, that's all great things to have. Screen quality is bright enough, it's a little bit more reflective than I would have hoped for, and the sensitivity points on the edges are an issue. Also, compared to the Pioneer entry-level units, you also lose the DSP function with time delay, which is something, personally for me, would be very useful to have, but I realise it's not really a feature killer for 90 to 95% of you users out there. Now, for an old car like this, it really adds a lot of functionality to the car for really not too much money. For the fact standalone sat-nav units can cost like £100, and normal Bluetooth head units can cost easily between £50 to £100 as well. To actually get full CarPlay with Bluetooth and everything else on there for £170, that's a lot of functionality. And overall, I am very impressed with what you do get for £170. Now, it's not as good as the cheapest Pioneer entry-level CarPlay unit they have, no, but it's about 80% as good for 50% of the price, and using that ratio, this is actually really, really good value. So if audio quality is not your main priority, but you just want something that's as good as stock audio quality with some options to upgrade in the future, but typically you just want the extra functionality of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, this is the head unit for you. You don't get DAB digital radio, but if you've got your phone connected, just use something like the TuneIn app, which is going to be much better anyway. Anyway, that is the ATOTO head unit, so I hope this video has been useful to you. If you want to see more reviews like this in the future, be sure to leave a like in it down below, leave a comment down below as well, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and bell notification icon so you're alerted of any new videos as soon as it drops. But until then, thank you all for watching, see you soon, and like always, take care.